So following on from the guitar tuning video that I made about trying to get chords right, all the chords to sound okay, the same goes for the ukulele, but it's a little bit more tricky here because of the scale length being so much shorter than that of a guitar. And when you've got the scale length being shorter, that is the length between the nut here and the bridge, the smaller it is, the better the manufacturing tolerance has to be with the placement of the frets, the action, everything is different. But there is one positive with this in that the strings are nylon instead of steel, so you get less sort of variation in your pitch between a nylon string and a steel string. So if you bend a nylon string, if I bent the same steel string, the pitch would vary so much more. So you do have a certain amount of compliance in these strings that helps the tuning. Now, if I was to play a C chord, generally speaking on a ukulele, that works well, that chord, because all of the notes are different. Sure, there's an octave there, C to C, and actually they're bang on. The problem though comes when you have a chord where the notes, two of the strings are actually playing exactly the same note. So if I play an F chord, sounds all right. Let's try a G. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But it's okay. Don't be sort of ready to change things too drastically, just as with the guitar where I played the E chord and it all went completely awry. But if you do get a chord that is really, really out, if I was to change this string, to match that one, also the pressure that I apply on that, for example that top C note, can change the note ever so slightly. Now you can tune your ukulele with a tuner, or if you know what the notes are, you can use various frets to check that it's all in tune. So the first note, G, C, E, and A. So by default it's a C6 chord or an A minor 7. So what you can do is you can use various frets on the strings to test your strings. So for example, if I've tuned the G and then I want to tune the C, I could put a finger on 7th fret on that C string and it gives me that same G. Yeah, they're pretty much there. To do the next string, I'd put a finger at 4th fret on the C string, on the 3rd string, test it with the next open one. And then for the last string, I could use 5th fret, or I could tune from the outsides in, and actually I could tune the A string with 2nd fret on the G. Sometimes tuning a guitar from the inside, or a uke from the outside in, can get you a slightly better result. It's like, for example, if you wanted to measure a room with a 12-inch ruler, you're not going to get a very good result because every time you move the ruler, you're creating error in measuring that room. So you come up with a false reading, and that can happen on a string instrument if you are going from one string and using the sort of each subsequent string to test the next one. You're always going to come up with some sort of error there. So it's quite a good idea to tune from the outsides in. So you could then do that and then tune the middle two to make sure everything is kind of in. And then all of your other chords. Now the further you go up the ukulele, the more chance there is of error, especially with something like this, because there is no, the frets are placed. The formula is that each fret is 18/19ths of the distance from the previous one. So that gap there is 18/19ths distance of that one, etc., all the way up. So you get this sort of logarithmic thing where the frets get closer together as you go up. Now on this uke, you've got the 12th fret, which is marked with a spot. That's a long way off. See, that's flat. That implies that the string is too long. So on this uke, you can move the bridge. This shouldn't happen on a standard ukulele because they are manufactured with a bridge that's fixed. But if I move this now a bit further this way, what's that done to my tuning though? It's actually made everything slightly sharper, but I test my chords again. So I need to retune this. So just recapping. Open G. I have perfect pitch, so I can tune without a tuner, but even if you've got a clip-on tuner, just use that and then try and tune the other strings, not only using the tuner, but by using this method as well. So there's my G. There we go. So I'm now going to tune the last string in tune. And then lastly, I'm going to do the E string. Okay. That sounds okay to me. Now, it is part of the instrument's charm that the tuning is not altogether accurate. And actually, as I made another video on ukulele, when you have ukulele chords accompanying acoustic guitar chords, it can actually really fill not only the mid-range of the acoustic guitar, but it gives a nice chorusy feeling. The nature of what chorus actually is minute pitch variations that are then added to the original signal to give the idea and the sort of the sense of more than one person playing. So the ukulele can fill that role really quite admirably, and it's also a rhythmic instrument, you know. The irony with this one is it actually sounded better when the 12th fret wasn't completely out. Now, sometimes the height of the bridge here, the height of the nut rather, and the height of the bridge and the angle of the neck will affect the tuning, just as it does on any other fretted instrument. Guitars, there are lots of adjustments that you can make on an electric guitar to do this. If you look at Felix Ukuleles UK, you can see a video online of my demo of Felix's electric ukuleles. He's circumvented all of these problems by providing electric guitar fixings, so individual saddle pieces and which you can raise or lower and move this way or that way. Because it's also a steel stringed instrument, you do need those things in place. So, but for a ukulele like this is a 1950s mass-produced British ukulele called a Down South. But any ukulele you find in a shop will usually have fixed tuning, fixed bridge and fixed, you know, everything else, fixed action. So do try a few when you go in, because they all tune slightly differently. Manufacturing tolerances of mass-produced instruments, as we all know, are subject to quite a lot of variation. So when you do get something, try a few out in the shop, because you'll find one that tunes better than the one next to it. So Now a ukulele like this is actually a little bit more difficult to tune because the head that the bridge sits on generates harmonics of its own. It's like trying to tune a banjo. Actually, that's really hard to get a banjo to sound right, to tune it up, because the harmonic content of the string is all over the place, and you get all these sort of weird harmonics which are actually out of tune anyway. And it sort of tends to be a bit of a sort of a fudge job to try and get it all to work. But actually, that is equal temperament, the modern music temperament that we use and that we tune a piano with. So it's not a perfect science, which actually makes it more fun anyway. But that's okay. That makes sense. So just on the subject of the G here, the tenor uke is exactly the same, but this is down an octave, and the string is usually got a bit of a winding on it, and the scale length is a bit longer. So it's still the same notes: G, C, E, and A. Some people tune the ukes down a half step or up a step or whatever if they're wanting to get chords, or you can use a little capo. But beware with the capo, if you squeeze it too hard on the neck, you can hear that the notes are changing ever so slightly the more pressure I'm applying. And this also goes for your chords, so only apply the pressure that you need to apply. That's out of tune, whereas that's better. And also, if you pull on the neck, you're going to change your tuning as well. So with a ukulele, because it's such a light instrument, you shouldn't need to apply too much pressure with your fingers. So there we go. There is a guide to how to get round some tuning problems with the ukulele.